Hello, welcome to this very special edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace, reporting here at the Iridium Jazz Club here in New York City. Tonight, blessing the band stage is the Diva Jazz Orchestra, led by Dr. Sherrie Maricle. And as you might know, the Diva Jazz Orchestra has been a very, very important part of the jazz legacy as well as community here in New York City and abroad. Sherrie has really done some very important things with this big band, meaning that she's really playing a lot and paying homage to the great jazz leaders and band leaders of the past, as well as writing fresh and innovative arrangements and compositions for this band. Tonight she's paired up with two-time Grammy Award-winning jazz vocalist Diane Schuur, and as you know, she's been a staple and a fan of the Pace Report for well over 7 years. I sat down and talked with Sherrie. We talked about the origins of the Diva Jazz Orchestra, as well as I sat down briefly and broke bread with Diane and talked about how the big band has really been part of the American landscape as far as presenting and being the ear of American music for the first 50 years in its existence in this country. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the sounds of the Diva Jazz Orchestra, led by Dr. Sherrie Maricle, featuring two-time Grammy jazz vocalist Diane Schuur, here on the Pace Report, live here at the Iridium.
I'm not feeling like I usually do. Think it might have something to do with you. Every time you near me, my body gets hot. Don't need no doctor, I know what I got. I caught a touch of your love. It came on overnight. I must have held you too tight. Last night I caught a touch of your love. Your affection has affected me. Feeling kind of dizzy and weak in the knees. I've been in love before, but never so bad. You're in my system and it's driving me mad. I caught a touch of your love. It came on overnight. I must have held you too tight. Last night I caught a touch of your love. The thrill from your kisses tears me apart. The scar from your lips it goes straight to my heart. No use pretending, 'cause baby I'm sure there's no cure and I discovered
Sherrie, this is really a labor of love for you. I mean, the big band, and then on top of that, you have two-time Grammy Award-winning vocalist Diane Schuur with you tonight.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and we have worked with her for probably 20 years, off and on, and like maybe we'll do a few gigs, and then we won't see each other for 5 years, then suddenly do another couple of gigs, and I think it's been about 7 years since we played with her last. This wasn't our first time, and every single time it's like we never were apart, you know. It's like that really great connection.
You know, the Diva Jazz Orchestra has been around for a while. Explain how this started and the concept, and also how you guys put together to put this music.
Oh, great question. Thank you. Well, March actually coming up is going to be our 22nd birthday. We were formed by a man named Stanley Kay, who was also the founder of a great act called Hines, Hines and Dad, Gregory Maurice Hines, and he played with Josephine Baker and Patti Page and Frankie Lane. And I was playing at a freelance show, and Maurice Hines was dancing, and I was the drummer. And he liked the way I played, and he said, "Do you know other women that play like you?" And I said, "I do." And he said, "I want to form this band." And he was also the manager of the Buddy Rich Band and Buddy's assistant drummer for a number of years, and I was very excited. And that was 1990. In 1992, we had our first audition for Diva. 40 women came from all over the world. We put together the first 15, and we had our first gig in March of 1993, and we've been going ever since.
Now, you have an album that you just recorded live at Dizzy's, and it features 2 iconic jazz vocalists.
Yeah, in fact, our last 3 CDs were live from Dizzy's. I love recording live. Can't replace that energy, man. But yeah, it was a great Nancy Wilson and Marlena Shaw. Can't get better than that.
That's right, that's right. You know, I want to go into some of the history of big bands, because Deedles and I spoke earlier, and we talked about how the big band was very responsible for doing 3 things. It introduced the soloist, it also introduced the American popular music of the songbook, and it also introduced the vocalists who became iconic from those big bands.
Yeah, and exactly everything you're saying is right on point. And then also it gave writers a whole new medium to write for, coming out of small bands from Dixieland and, you know, right into the swing era. Suddenly orchestrations and musical arrangers and writing and everything got more complex and symphonic and really evolved into what people around the world consider America's classical music, jazz. You know, so it was fascinating on all those levels. Oh, and it's one more thing too, and big bands traditionally have served as kind of an offspring, like shooting ground for phenomenal soloists. Like even in Diva, we have players like Ingrid Jensen and Anat Cohen and Claire Daly and Virginia Mayhew, and players who started out in Diva and, you know, are on to great things on their own. So big bands are good for that too.
You know, you're doing something that's very, very interesting, because what I'm noticing now, and lately, like the last 5 or 6 years, the big band has made this resurgence, and even in the jazz categories, as far as Grammys, there have been some very important big band records that have won Grammys over the last decade.
Yeah, and a lot of great music is being written, and it's continually evolving, like with great writers like Maria Schneider and John Hollenbeck, who's actually a Grammy nominee, and he and I are from the same town, and that kind of writing. And then there's still, which is more contemporary and even teetering on the kind of classical music and chamber music vibe with jazz, kind of what Gil Evans did, but even more so. And then there's bands like Diva and Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band and Clayton Hamilton Band that really like swing hard and, you know, play the tradition, you know, rooted in tradition but still modern.
You are steeped in 3 traditions: the jazz drummer, the big band, and also being a leader. And being a female and being a leader, you've won so many shows. How do you do this?
Well, you know, one of my great teachers and influences, there are 2 especially. First one was Mel Lewis, who is, of course, a great big band leader with Thad Jones and Jeff Hamilton, who's somebody I idolize very much. Also does the 2 things I love the most, has a great big band and loves playing trio, which was 2 things I love the most. And you know, you always keep your eye on the greater good when you have something you really believe in and love the product. You know, it's one thing if I love it, but Stanley Kay used to always say, it's not, we could love it all we want, but if no one's in the seats and the audience doesn't like you, you might as well sit in your basement and practice. But that's one thing. And in fact, somebody backstage just said to me, a non-jazz person, never heard jazz before, said, "This is the first time I've been entertained by jazz." Like, it was kind of an interesting comment, because I do view us as entertainers, even though we're artists. I think it's a badge of honor to say people went out feeling like they really felt good from the evening, like they weren't musically tortured intellectually to like try to understand what we were doing. Because I think even if it's challenging, that we present it in a way that's accessible.
You know, it's unfortunate that during the late 40s, music and the economy was changing, and the big bands kind of went into demise. In fact, I think what was really kind of the remnants of the big bands on the demise was television. You saw I Love Lucy, even the variety shows. Those orchestras had a lot of the great, especially LA and New York, had some of the important jazz musicians playing in those bands.
Absolutely, and even of course the very last of those being the Tonight Show band with Carson, that was loaded with incredible, amazing players and writers. Tommy Newsom coming to mind because he wrote a lot of music for Diva as well, and Buddy Rich, and yeah, man. I'm really grateful to see that a lot of TV shows are, at least the talk shows, are having live bands these days. You know, even the new Meredith Vieira show, a couple of my friends are in that band, and Seth Meyers, and so at least, and of course Jimmy Fallon. I mean, bands are present on television, and they should be.
Always talk about love in their childish way. I know every kind of love that are far than they. If you want the thrill of love, I've been through the middle and every love but true love. Advertising now, love for sale. If you want to buy my wares, follow me and climb the stairs. Love for sale. Talk about love for sale. Talk about Little bit of love for sale. Little bit of love for
Deedles, you know, every time we talk there's always a new project. We did country western, we've done the tribute to Stan Getz, and now we're going back into something that one got you your second Grammy, the big band.
Yeah, that's for sure. Working with Sherrie Maricle and Diva, it's just like a project of love, and we resurrected some things that hadn't been out for quite a while, like Love for Sale, Do Nothing Till You Hear From Me, just wonderful, just really, really neat stuff, and I'm just having such a good time with it.
You know, Diane, the big band is something that really in the early 1900s up till about maybe 1945, 50, that was really the crux of how American popular music was, one, played, recorded, and also heard and danced to.
Yeah, that's true. Times absolutely have changed, but it's still wonderful to be able to find audiences that really appreciate the big band kind of sound and all the energy that it encompasses,
Growing up in Washington, tell me some of the first big band records you were exposed to.
The first one I was, exposed to was Duke Ellington's big band. That's what I really very vividly recall, when, listening to tunes like Willow Weep for Me and In My Solitude and, Autumn Leaves and just different wonderful things, and Dancing in the Dark, which Mom and Dad used to dance to, when I was a kid. And it's just really wonderful stuff, Prelude to a Kiss is on that record, and just really neat stuff.
You were blessed, and we talked earlier, you were blessed to win a Grammy with the Count Basie Big Band. In fact, you kind of revisit a lot of the material from that recording from GRP back, was it 87?
Something like that. Yeah, something like that, for sure. Mm-hmm.
What were some of the things that you had to do to prepare for recording with big band? Because we're going to go into the Maynard Ferguson in just a second, but in addition to you playing and singing, you have to really kind of get accommodated and acclimated to charts and arrangements.
Right. I would get the material, have it transcribed into Braille, and that's what I did with a lot of the albums, a lot of the projects, whether it was big band or quartet or whatever it was, except for the latest with my group, my New York-based group. I actually was able to woodshed at the Blue Note, and with some of the Braille, and then by the time we got to recording, which was about a year later, I was able to just not have to worry about reading the transcribed stuff and just do it from memory, which is really kind of cool.
What are your reflections of working with the great Frank Foster? Because Frank really was the backbone of really holding Count Basie's orchestra up, and even up to when he died.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Frank and I were really good friends, and of course Freddie Green, the great guitarist, always had my back. He was so cool, and I love those guys. We'd travel on the buses together, and it was just really kind of neat.
Freddie Green, that was his very last recording.
Yes, it was. Yes, it sure was. On the 28th of February of 1987. That's when we recorded. I believe that's the day we recorded, or was it the day he actually passed away? I think we recorded on the 25th of February in Los Angeles. So,
Dee's the big band. The big band was very, very responsible for introducing two things. The soloist, who became big and better after they left, like the great bands of Benny Goodman and Count Basie, but also the vocalists were very important to the big band.
yes, absolutely. And there were a lot of good ones, too. I mean, Billie Holiday worked with big band. Of course, Dinah Washington started her career with big band. Sarah Vaughan, of course, with big band. Ella Fitzgerald, Tisket Tasket was with big band. Well, there are a lot of people, you know. Helen Forrest, I think she was, you know, or was it Merrill? Maybe it was Helen Merrill. Not Forrest. There's no Forrest, I don't think, except in the woods. Anyway, yeah, you know, Anita O'Day worked with Roy Eldridge, and there was just a lot of people out there worked with a big band.
Why do you think the big bands are having such a major resurgence now, not just in jazz, but also in popular music right now?
I don't know. I wish I had an answer for that, but I don't know. It's, you know, with the public, you know, things change from year to year to year, and I guess this year, big bands are in.
So would it be safe to say that you and Sherrie are going to sit down and collectively put together another project?
Well, one of these days, I'm hoping that it'll happen. We'll just have to see.
Bésame mucho. Each time I cling to your kiss, I hear music divine. Bésame mucho. Hold me, my darling, and say that you'll always be mine. Oh, bésame mucho.
Talk about how you choose arrangements for this, because the big bands, you have to write charts for each original musician, and you conducting and leading this and you playing drums, there's like I said, there's many shoes. How do you do this?
Well, one thing that we decided when we formed Diva with Stanley is that we were going to commission every arrangement. So we would only have original arrangements for us, which is, you have to do that. I mean, think of the history of all the great big bands. You only play your own arrangements. So that was one thing. And then keeping our thing is, like, as I said, stay rooted in the tradition of something that's really swinging and accessible, but it can be equally challenging and interesting for the players. And then figuring out, when you have great players in the band, what arrangements are going to make them really happy and want to stay in the band. I mean, as I said, the band's 22 years old, and we've had people in this band for 20 years who haven't left. People have been in here for 15 years. Paying attention to the talent you have, like any company, you know, you love the people that are in there, you want to make them happy. So that's part of it. And this particular show at Deedles, it was a love story, love show, all for Valentine's Day. So we went through our music and just said, let's pick out everything we have that's got love in it and see how we can squeeze it all in. So that's how this came about.
That love for sale was off the chain.
I know, that was so fun. I know, and because as I mentioned, we worked with Diane before, but we never played that chart, and I was just going through YouTube, thinking, like, let me check out some of Diane's other charts I might not have heard, and came across all these great Billy May charts, and I mentioned it to her. I said, hey, can we do this? And she's like, yeah. And she actually teared up at rehearsal because she said she hadn't heard them in so many years, and it's kind of great to bring that back. And she just, of course, scattered her brains out there. That was amazing.
When I see you, my grandfather was a was a big jazz fan. But you brought up a name. He loved Buddy Rich, and he used to record these great big band records. And I'm looking at you, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is kind of deja vu. How has the role of the drummer in the big band, because don't forget, you got the horns and you got all these dynamic arrangements, and then they're playing behind you. How do you keep it where it's not overbearing, but also where it blends in?
So that is also a really great question, and I don't think anyone's ever asked that question before to me, and I really appreciate it. There's a lot of different levels of thinking about that, but I know Mel Lewis used to always say, play from inside the band like you're the heart in the middle, and in a supportive role. But at the same time, what all the horn players do when they're not playing a solo is they're playing what's written on the page, and everything that the drummer does to make a big band exciting, none of it's written down. It's all improvised. So you might have music, like you'll see what the horns are doing, but it's your job to do things in between all that. It's, you know, like it's called dropping a bomb or kick the band or like set up figures, and that's the exciting part. So another great drummer just came to mind that I love, Dennis McCrell with the Basie Band, who's on the record that Diane referenced several times. He was great at that too. He would like be right, like sizzling underneath and just totally supportive, but when it came time to kick that band, he was like, bam, like it brought it up so many levels of energy. And so I try to do that all the time too, kind of keep it where it's supposed to go and be real supportive, but when it needs kicking, I like doing that too.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. Reporting from the Iridium here in New York City, I'd like to personally thank the talented Diane Schuur, as well as the Diva Jazz Orchestra, led by Dr. Sherrie Maricle. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column, as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.